Hey everyone, my name is Tegan and welcome back to TandeWrites, where today we're going to be doing one of my favourite videos, which is where I talk about my books. And when I say my books, I mean the ones I wrote, not just whatever's going on back here. I have this kind of tradition for myself where anytime I release a new book, I say tradition, it's happened twice, it's now the third time, where I will kind of sit down and talk through kind of like my annotations for the book, like key quotes, key moments that are as non-spoilery as possible, but kind of give you a sense to a new reader about what the book's about, what the vibe is, what my writing style is. Kind of like, if you don't want to commit to the book now, here's like a 20-minute video saying what you can expect. And at time of recording, the book isn't out yet. It comes out September 18th, so by the time it's uploaded, it's definitely out, and I'll have more of an idea of what people think about it. But right now it's strange because it's still kind of like my little secret for a while longer. I've had some early reviewers, I've had some authors give quotes for me. But right now, when I'm picking out all the moments I want to talk about, they are just my favourite moments. Like one day, maybe I'll have an audience who can like submit their favourite moments and I'll talk about it. But for now, it's just me. And again, while I'm here, I'll talk about editions. This book comes out in... let's do this one first. This is the kind of like deluxe paperback. It is a cover I drew myself. It has, not end papers, but like end pictures, extra printing. It has like fun formatting. It has I say extra scene. It's more like a scene got removed for this one. This one here is on only Amazon at the moment, whereas the other version is worldwide, as many shops as you can find. But it's got a discreet cover, still in the asexual flag pride colours. Whereas this book, if you see the full wraparound art, it has blue and it goes around to orange. And it still has the pride colours, but it's more of a discreet, subtle cover if you are a reader who does not find it safe to have, you know, pride elements in your house. Because this one, you know, has little pride covers. There's also an ebook edition and a large print hardcover, which has the same cover as this, and is also available on Amazon for some of my visually impaired girlies. And there is an audiobook version in progress, but don't have any set dates for that. That's what's happening with that. In this book, it's so special to me. But I've made enough videos talking about why it's special to me. Now I'm going to actually talk about the contents of the book. And I'm going to switch over to my proof copy that has my annotations in, because I'm too afraid to break the spine of my nice new version. Because look, it has a quote by Caspian, author of Vesuvius. I can't ruin this copy. But anyway, let's talk about some moments. And I will say, some of these are just highlighted because they're quotes I like. Some of them just don't have an actual annotation. First quote I see, it's just a paragraph I like. So it's about Rin, who's the blind character in this book, so music, sounds is very important to him. And obviously when his visual memory fades, he can still remember, you know, very distant child memories of like his mother singing to him. So, sometimes Rin wakes in the night with a hole in his chest and his mother's voice whispering around him, her voice from when she still lived at home, not the one he hears crackling through a telephone. The lyrics of her lullabies might be lost to time, but the ghost of the melodies never seemed to fade. He grew older and started to recognise where she picked up the songs from the radio, then he learned how to sing himself to sleep. And again, this is also loosely inspired by like moments from my own childhood where I have these memories of my mum singing in the kitchen. And it's definitely a song that's on the radio. But to this day, no idea what song it is. If I heard it on the radio, I wouldn't recognise it, because that song is now my mother's rendition, not the radio's version. So yeah, if you are a listener of Heart 80s or Absolute 80s, you would have heard my childhood, but it exists in my mum's voice, and that's like my personal soundtrack. We skip ahead a few pages to Asha, my deaf girlie. She's in a meeting with her counsellor. She's not doing great in her mock exams, and she's kind of just reminiscing on what something her therapist said to her. The therapist started talking about grief and clinical depression and brainwaves until Asha latched onto the phrase theta waves and went home to research it herself, and that's how she learned that grieving people's waking brains seem to still be in a state of deep unconsciousness, and really she's just sleepwalking through life. But at least she's trying. At least she thinks she is. And that quote was important to me as a chronic pain, as a fibromyalgia girlie who has, you know, chronic fatigue, clinical depression, and insomnia. Sometimes you just end up on like sleep psychology websites trying to find out why you are this way. I think about the representation in this book. Obviously, it's not own voices because I'm not deaf, I'm not blind. But I had my fibromyalgia diagnosis during the time I was writing key moments in this book. So I channeled a lot of the feelings I have towards my disability into this. And then but at least she's trying, at least she thinks it is. This was originally a reference to the Maisie Peters song, I'm Trying, Not Friends. And then obviously Taylor Swift released This Is Me Trying. So it's a reference to whichever one of those songs you like more. But for me, it's Maisie Peters. Another quote. So one of Ash's main storylines in this book is that she finds like a scrap of a note which she interprets as a suicide letter that she stumbled upon. And it's her quest to find out who wrote this letter. This isn't a spoiler, this is like kind of in the description. She finds this letter, she decides that she has to have a sense of purpose. Like me, I've savior complex, I guess. Her main goal for the summer is to try and find who wrote this letter before the date that's mentioned in it. And the date that's mentioned in it is the day before her birthday. So, she needs this story to have a happy ending for the selfish reason of not wanting to cry on her birthday this year. She imagines she will anyway. And for me, everything I write is about the eternal horrors of being 17, and crying on your birthday is just one of those horrors that you may not outgrow. And a few pages later, there's a sentence that I think summarises Ash as a character quite nicely, and it's, she hopes she's a nice person at the end of this. And this comes down to the fact that you can experience so much trauma and grief and sadness in your life, and it'd be very easy to understand that, you might be like a very cold person because of that, and that any kind of kindness and gentleness that these survivors have is like an active choice, because it would be very easy to just submit to your grief rather than like still trying to be a good person. Yeah, Ash is my girlie. And I keep saying a few pages later, it's probably a few chapters later. I missed one. This is kind of a reference to me liking scrapbooking and collecting when friends send me letters, birthday cards, hoarding cinema tickets, pressed flowers, things like that. Hoarding kind of any evidence I have that I'm friends with this person. And she's kind of making this, like, sticking all this stuff up on her wall. Like, you know, like a crime scene pin board. And it says, maybe it's silly creating a shrine to her friendship as if it's a god, but maybe this friendship is the closest thing she has to something that's holy. And, you know, religious undertones in my book, more likely than you'd think. This kind of, I think it must have started my first book, Beauty and a Breakdown, but in Paper Forests there is like, you know, a very heavy, one character has religious undertones, and it's also the grief of growing up and realising that the community you're absorbed in doesn't actually accept you. But for this one, friendship is the highest form of religion for me. And obviously this book is my self-insert. What's up next? And I will say as I'm reading this book, it has no romance in it, no matter what the Storygraph AI-generated preview is trying to imply. But no romance, it's friends, and I think as a neurodivergent person, I can become friends with, it would either take me 5 years to befriend someone, or pretty much overnight. And Asher and Ren's relationship is that they very quickly realise that they are the only person who truly understands the other. So feels like, you know, like an insta-love. They have a very quick, deep connection, because again, a lot of, you know, shared trauma. And it's the kind of thing of like, how far can you get into a relationship before you ask someone like, do you love me? Not, are you in love with me? That's a different question. Like, do you love me? Do you like me that much that I'm like your dearly beloved? What he doesn't ask is the unspoken question he whispers in the darkness each night, when only the shadows can hear him. Do you love me? Because he thinks she might, in a completely platonic way, and for the first time in his life, he might truly be wanted by someone, no strings attached. And I wrote this, and then many times later, I saw a tweet by someone, I wrote it sideways for some reason, by someone called Nocturnal X Light, which I'll put on the screen if I still have it. It just says, queer platonically yearning is hard, because yes, technically I mean friends, but I think my definition of friends is different than your definition of friends. And that is both the queer, platonic, and the neurodivergent experience. It's like, we're friends, but are we friends in like, you know, we're colleagues who get along, or are we like soulmates? I'd like to believe that I am soulmates with everyone I've ever met, but you know. Then 1 page later, we have a paragraph. I've not written anything about it, but I just really like this one, so I'll read it to you anyway. And context is they're sat on like the edge of the pavement waiting for Rin's dad to come pick him up. And it's raining a little bit. It's, you know, dark. They're looking at the lamppost, the streetlights. Rin tilts his head up to the rooftops and wishes he could see a sky full of stars one more time, or the aurora borealis Asher caught through her phone camera, even if she couldn't see it with her functioning eyes. For now, he'll stick to the streetlights and pretend they're stars instead. The context here is that Rin's not completely blind. He has light and shadow perception, so though it's mostly dark, like with my ring light in front of me, it'll mostly be dark, but you'll be able to see, you know, the ring of light. You might not be able to see stars anymore, because I think, I was going to say a lot of blind people, a lot of people with the kind of condition Rin's eyesight is based largely off retinitis pigmentosa. A lot of those people, I believe, have light and shadow perception and night blindness. So yeah, you can't see the stars, but you can see the streetlights. and because of like the height, they are kind of the same vibe. And there's a scene earlier on where this, in real lifetime, it was a time where in the UK you could see the northern lights, only really through a phone camera clearly, but in the sky some people had like a faint purple glow. And for me, I got my phone camera out and I took a picture and suddenly the northern lights were there, and that was just like a very surreal experience that stuck with me. So there's a scene where Ash was talking about like, oh yeah, she took a photo of the northern lights. She couldn't see it, but it was there. And then somehow deep down there's a metaphor about how there's a lot of things about that you can't see, which if I ever go back to rewrite, if I rewrite this book, if I write a sequel to this book, that'll be a big theme that comes up, I imagine. And then the first chapter of the July section is... Asha likes the first of the months the same way that some people like New Year's. She likes Mondays too, the beginning of an untouched week, knowing that there's something she hasn't messed up yet. Because she will, and she does, and she's supposed to, and that's okay. For me, while Rin kind of represents depression, Asha represents anxiety. And, you know, a lot of people, they think of New Year as time for a fresh start, new season is time for a fresh start. Asha has the kind of thing where, like, you know, each new week is a fresh start, each new month is a fresh start. She's constantly looking for a way to start over, because she's like what am I trying to say? Catastrophizes, and the world is just ending at any inconvenience. So, context, Be Real's just gone off, and I'm only halfway through, so it's going to be late today. There's a scene where Rin, Asha, and his friend Luke are all kind of hanging out watching a film together. They're wrapped up in blankets, and Rin thinks maybe if he spends the entire night with them wrapped in blankets and laughter, he'll spill his guts as the sun comes up. And the line, "spill his guts as the sun comes up," has been imprisoned in my notes app for a long time. And sometimes a line does make sense with my current work in progress, and it gets to escape notes app prison. And I really enjoy this scene in general. It is Rin just sitting there having the worst internalized sadness ever, and he thinks that if I sit here surrounded by people who love me for long enough, maybe I will confess to my sadness. And spoiler alert, he does not. A little bit further. I've been writing this book on and off for the past 10 years, and I've spent a lot of that 10 years wondering, like, why am I not quite right? Why is there something not quite right about me? Turns out it's autism, and a lot of that has been projected into this book. So, I think during an argument with her mother, Asha thinks maybe there's a treatment for why she doesn't feel at home in her skin. Maybe it's just the way she was made. This is a moment where, writing it down, I realised that the thought I assumed everyone had, which was that everyone doesn't feel right in their skin. I thought everyone had that thought. Turns out it is just the basis of my autism diagnosis. And, you know, justice for grown-up weird girls who are still weird, and it's just less acceptable to be weird now. We got to a chunk where there's a lot in close succession, so I was really popping off in my Word document when I was writing this then. We have another notes app relic that's made its way onto the page, and this one doesn't mean, well, there's, you know, it's a metaphor, it's symbolism, it's whatever, it's descriptive writing, but it's a phrase where I enjoy the rhythm of it more than what it actually means. And that is, he's lying on his bedroom floor, dissecting, trying to pull out the remains of a scared child inside of him. Flat fragments of a past life consume every bad night, and this one is no different. I just like that. Probably if someone else, you know, read it, it would flow better, but I like it. And then, 3 pages later, Asha thought the memories were trapped half a decade deep in her camera roll, never to be seen again, but now they're trapped in music instead. The song sounds like a version of herself that she can't return to anymore. This is, you know, scenes I don't really remember writing, and I wish I could unwrite it, because it just hits me. As, you know, someone with far too many photos in their camera roll. I think this was me kind of reflecting on people I'm not friends with anymore, where sometimes I don't delete the photos because they're so far back in my camera roll, I'm never going to like naturally stumble upon them. And I think, you know, I've moved on from this friendship, this relationship, and a song starts playing that we listen to together, and suddenly I've not moved on at all. This entire book is projecting, by the way. And then a handful of pages later, what have we got here? Oh, we've got like a slight big paragraph. Let's have a read of this. I think there's like a select section that stands out here, but I'm going to read you the entire paragraph just so you get the gist. Rin collapses onto her rug, curling up in a sunbeam like a cat, and the light burns his hair golden like a halo. Ash doesn't tell him that he looks like an angel. Instead, she drops her brush alongside his roller in the paint tray and lies down beside him. She watches his side profile until a cloud passes in front of the sun. He doesn't look so much like an angel anymore, just a boy sprawled out on her bedroom floor. And for me, this is, you know, kind of romanticising the people you love, painting them in gold. And then sometimes you just look at them and you think, you know, that is just a person. is a person that I've turned into like my own personal god, but they are just a person. And you know, how golden lighting makes everything beautiful, or how we have so little sun in the UK that it comes out every now and then and things are nice. And this is kind of a paragraph. I had an epiphany on the train listening to Noah Khan. I think it was The View Between Villages was playing. I was on the train, there was loads of rolling hills, it was golden hour, it was beautiful. And I thought, wow, I love the UK, it's perfect. And then the sun suddenly went behind a cloud and it wasn't magical anymore. So that is another relic from Notes at Prison, except I think I intentionally did write it for this. And then I'll show you the context. You can kind of see the yellow. So the start and the end of the paragraph was important here. So I won't read you the entire paragraph, but know that there's like a missing chunk in the middle. I'm just reading you some of the dialogue. This is Asha talking about her first best friend who is no longer in the story. She once wrote me a letter saying that I saved her life, that I kept her alive. I guess we found out what happens to someone's life when you're sick of saving it. Sometimes you move away to uni and your friend does not go to uni and you receive many handwritten letters talking about how you abandoned them and many things that are too personal to share. Then, literally a page later, we have some dialogue. I'll show you here. Bob's up and up on the screen so you can read it properly. It says, how can we change the world? She notices his use of we, not you or I. He continues, we don't have to change it forever, just for a night or an hour. Or a moment, she suggests. Or a moment, he agrees. What's the probability of changing it forever? She pretends to do the math, squeezing his hand and audibly counting on his fingers in a way she knows will make him laugh. Improbable, but not impossible. So this is... When I first started writing this book, I was writing a book about a blind boy and a deaf girl, and I was writing a book about two girls, one of which has like a terminal illness, and she's trying to make the most of her life before she dies. And eventually I realised that these two books, if I merged them together, make more sense as one book than two separate books. But in the terminal illness book, it was called The Improbable Probability of Changing the World Tonight, which is still a banger, mouthy, wordy title. But there was a scene where it says, how can we change the world? We don't have to change it forever. What is the probability of changing it forever? That's a scene that, transferred across, that I'm very fond of. And it's the scene that is mentioned on this, here. This is what this text is. And then just a little line later on that I like. Rin tells Asha about his favourite things he's seen, and Asha listens as if his voice is her favourite song. Because again, Rin does have some light perception. He's talking about fireworks and how he can see some fireworks. And how there's just other things he can see. Like, he can see, the glimmer, if Asha's jewellery catches light, things like that. I will talk about these characters if, they're my children that I'm proud of forever. But some things, oh, that's a lot of yellow. So this is about the fireworks again. There's a scene I haven't mentioned here where it's a kind of scene that parallels all my other books. So in Beauty and the Breakdown, there's a scene where love is the main character Josh describes what love is to him through each of the senses. There's a similar scene in Paper Forests, and then there's a similar scene in here where Asha asks Rin where he feels his feelings. Like when you feel happy, you feel it in your fingertips. If you feel a sense of dread, you feel it in your stomach, things like that. So So, do you love me? She asks him when the light fades. Rin considers. This time there's no spiders in his stomach or pressure in his throat. This time he doesn't look down. He turns his head towards her, voice like a sunflower towards the sun. Blah, 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 blah. There's a kind of an awkward silence where he says that, no, I don't love you. I don't think I'll love anyone like that, because he doesn't see the difference between loving someone and being in love with them. And then he thinks he's offended her. He's broken their friendship. And then she points out a firework to him and says, hey, it's your favourite firework you described earlier. And in that moment, he knows what love is. And for me, hypothetically, if this book ever became a screen adaptation, if it was a film or a TV show, that scene is like my non-negotiable. It must be in there. And yeah, every now and then the book stops being pure fiction and starts being self-insert, semi-autobiographical instead. Because Asha's a writer. She's showing something she wrote to a friend. The friend says, you don't really write about traditional romance. And Asha's like, yeah, you're so right. I don't write about traditional romance. And then it comes down to what do you think traditional romance? What do you think traditional romance is? Because again, as an aromantic asexual, my definition of traditional romance is very different to other people's. So that's exactly what I think Asha lies, because while she doesn't really write about romance, all she does write about is love and whether or not it is real. And it started to bother her when things aren't real, despite her fondness for fiction and imaginary friends and magic in the mundane. And then coming back to the what's the probability of changing the world forever scene, There's one later on where Rin says, if the world was ending, you'd come over, right? Then Ash just says, so we're giving up on changing the world. We can sit together while everything falls apart if you like, stare up at the ceiling and all that. And again, it's this like very casual intimacy of being together when the world ends. And also, was it around the start of COVID? The song, If the World Is Ending, You'd Come Over Right, came out. And apparently that just stuck with me throughout the writing of this book. Then there's another little mention here. This one's like a new addition. Because a lot of the quotes I mentioned, like, when I wrote them, I knew they would be bangers, and I screenshot them, I saved them for like book promo. This one has become a recent favourite. It says, it's fine, whatever it is, it'll be fine. She'll see him tomorrow. The dust deepens, the stars emerge, the embers of the sun glow hot orange. There's a gathering rate in the air like rain, like a consequence coming straight for her. And I like this because the consequence of her commitment to finding a letter writer is coming straight for her. We have the final quote. This is a really sad place to end. Here's a big paragraph. Okay, I'm not going to actually read you the quote because it's spoilers, but this entire scene is very special to me. It is... I can't talk about this. Spoilers. It's basically just being in hospital and kind of being on your own. You've got no family, no friends there, but the community of the people in the ward and these other people who see you think, you know, we got to look after this sad kid. This sense of community and people looking out for you and saying, like, don't worry, I've got you, is what's special about the scene for me. And I can't talk about it in any kind of detail because massive spoilers. But again, it is just community. Because, you know, this book at its core is that kind of like pure, selfless love. And that is all I have to say about There Will Be Other Summers. They're some of my favourite little moments, favourite quotes. And when the audiobook is out, I'm sure I will just upload snippets of my favourite scenes read by someone who has a less croaky voice than I do. But thank you so much for watching this video. There Will Be Other Summers is out now for you to read if I've sold you on it in any way. And I hope to see you soon with even more videos about this book. I'm going to be talking about the making of the interior, the cover design, the actual self-publishing process, and maybe I'll start talking about writing a new book soon. But thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!